Going to be looking at a major earthquake event. This is a very powerful earthquake in 1899. Now, this earthquake, the Yakutat Bay earthquakes, we had two major events on September 4 and also September 10 of the same year. The initial quake was registered around 8.2 to 8.5 magnitude, and we had a much larger earthquake to 8.6 magnitude on September 10. So these were two very significant earthquakes, and we note the location of this earthquake event. Now, the most significant part of this event, or series of earthquake events, was that the earthquake raised the beach in the area of the Yakutat Bay upwards of 47 feet. So you can just imagine what sort of earthquake event this was. And it was a series of them, two major earthquakes, and we don't often get doublets like this. And if we have a look on the official site, it actually says that they're completely unsure as to the mechanism of what took place in this time frame. So if we have a look at the astrocartography and the software, I've marked the location and epicenter with this house, and I've gone back to 1894, so we're a good 4.5 to 5 years back, and I've noted some very important celestial movements moving across the region. Initially we've got Saturn and Uranus, and I'm going to animate the software, and we're going to see them moving into retrograde shortly. So we've got a Mars-Saturn connection just short. Okay, so I'm just going to pause it for a moment. We've got a simultaneous station of both Uranus and Saturn very near the earthquake epicenter. It's worth keeping a close note of. And also Saturn and Mars have made a connection just short of the station of Saturn. So note the position of Saturn and its proximity to the earthquake epicenter. I'm just going to continue on the animation. Now, these planets of Saturn and Uranus were also there for the Alpine Fold earthquake of New Zealand of 1717. They were doing a similar theme here, doing retrograde movements across the fault. So we've got both of these planets again. So now they've completed their retrogrades and now moving direct, and they're moving across. And we note that they're both going to do another retrograde again. Uranus is about to do it, and Saturn will join shortly. So Saturn's doing a retrograde around Vancouver Island, Queen Charlotte Island below. I'm zooming in on the epicenter, we're just focusing on this for now. And we're watching Saturn's movement in its next retrograde loop, and it's both of them simultaneously, and I'm just going to pause it. Both of them simultaneously have ended their retrograde, and we've got another connection with Mars and Saturn very near, this time on the opposite side. This time it's a little bit east of the earthquake epicenter. But note that we've got a double conjunction of Mars on both sides, initially before the retrograde started and then after. So I'm now going to continue on, and things get a little bit more interesting as we get another planet doing a retrograde, and I'm going to catch that shortly. Okay, we're now into 1898. We're still about a year short of the earthquake event. I've noticed we've got Mercury doing a retrograde, and while it does the retrograde, it makes a connection with the Sun. So we've got an Earth-Mercury-Sun planetary alignment very near the earthquake epicenter, and the earthquake event took place in September. So we're a good a year and 4 months prior to the, so it's a good 14 to 16 months prior. I'm going to continue the software and see if I can find another planetary motion and movement. Okay, we're now in January of 1899, so we're in the same year of the earthquake event. The earthquake was to occur in September, and we got Jupiter, the MC of Jupiter, moving across the region. Note that Jupiter is now starting to slow down and station, and look where it does the station, right on the future earthquake epicenter. So there's another very strong retrograde. I mean, you can't get it any more perfect than that. It's sitting right on the bay itself, and then it's stationary. And now I'm just going to pause it for a moment and just note the chart. Let's have a look at Jupiter. We'll get Jupiter on its station. Still showing retrograde on the chart. There we go. So there's the station. Note that we've got the Sun No, it's not the Sun. The Sun is actually anchored into Uranus with a very strong square aspect. Note that big red bold line, 88 degrees, and also Mercury-Sun conjunction. So Mercury and Sun made a conjunction very near the earthquake epicenter, and we've got Mercury-Sun on its next connection, connected into Uranus, which was initially one of the planets that was in a retrograde phase. So we've also got Mars and Venus at opposition, and Neptune and Saturn also at opposition. So this is an extremely powerful chart. So celestially, what's going on while Jupiter is doing its station is we've got multiple celestial connections taking place overhead. So I'm now going to continue the software and animate it and speed it up. So Jupiter is now in retrograde. It's made a connection with the Sun, and there's a few other connections going on here. Might as well catch those. We've got Venus, Mercury and Sun we're flying through. Okay, so Jupiter and Venus have made a connection pretty much in the Gulf of Alaska, so it's not near the earthquake epicenter. So Jupiter is now stationed, completed its retrograde, and now about to turn back. And note that as it does that, we've got the descending node of both Mercury and Sun over the future earthquake epicenter. Let's see, descending node. So we've got it's Neptune, Mercury and Sun, the descending nodes. So as seen from this location, that's on the sunset side. And this is during, so Jupiter's decided to do a station again and turn when we've got Earth, Mercury, Sun in a planetary alignment. So this is multiple connections of the same planets taking place right at the beginning and end of a retrograde phase. So some very interesting symmetry going on here. I note that we've still got very strong aspects in the chart, very bold features, and the significant feature is the Sun opposing Saturn as well. So there's a lot going on here, and we're still months away from the earthquake event. Now Jupiter is still stationary, now about to turn back. So we're now in July. We're now approaching September, and it doesn't look like we're going to get... Okay, so I'm going to pause it now. So the earthquake date, I think, was the 4th and 10th. So we've passed the earthquake epicenter date. Note that we've got a Sun-Venus near conjunction. They're within 2 degrees. And the Sun and Venus are connected into Saturn. Mercury's got a hard aspect as well into Chiron and Uranus. But note that we've got Neptune on the node. So we've got the nodes being interacted. A very strong day. Very, very strong day. So you could see how the retrograde movements and motions are there in the months and sometimes years preceding a major event. It's showing itself. It's almost like that the station points are marking a place on the globe of a future rupture. So this series of earthquakes, they were extremely significant, and not is a lot online about this series of earthquakes, but they were very destructive earthquakes, potentially because there wasn't a lot of population around in the area that it struck. But when you consider that the uplifted land of 47 feet, that is reminiscent of the 1855 earthquake that struck in New Zealand, the very powerful earthquake, 8.2 magnitude, that struck and raised and uplifted the land around Wellington in a similar fashion. So these are very powerful earthquake events, and obviously earthquakes greater than this sort of magnitude will have to have a very strong and significant celestial influence that preceded.